Good morning and Assalamualaikum. My name is Zaid Muhammad Amin. I will present about my project, the simulation design for home installation optical wireless communication. It's an introduction. Uh, optical wireless communication system easily transmit at higher frequency. At high frequency, where RF system will be costly at higher frequency. It is known that RF system can can struggle in high frequency operation. Next is OWC covers wide unlicensed spectral range of 700 to 10,000 nanometers of wavelength. Thus, it is cost effective to link data that exceeds 2.5 gigabyte seconds per wavelength. Light does not penetrate walls, so this gives privacy and security to the user. Objectives. So the objective is to evaluate the optical wireless communication transceiver system. Next is to simulate the possible output of the transceiver system using MATLAB software. Lastly, to evaluate the parameters present for optical wireless communication in home installation. Type of light sources. There are three types of light sources that are been studied. The prominent one that it's being used for optical wireless communication in home installation, that is not being used but being studied to implement in home installation, is the LED. Although the laser diode and solid state laser are used for optic fiber and long range or medium range or even short range links. So as you can see from the table, there are three the pros and cons for each type of light sources. Types of modulations. This as you can see, this is the modulation tree. Each and one of these can be used for modulation techniques, but in this project we only focusing for digital modulations. So in this case, we focusing on-off key modulations. This is an on-off key modulation versus on-off key modulation for a non-return zero versus on-off key return to zero. Types of photodetectors. There are two types of photodetectors, the PIN and APD. There are three types of materials that can be used substrate for the photodetectors, but you can see from the table that the photodetectors are slightly different, even though using the same type of material, because the design of the substrate is somewhat different from each other. But as you can see, the responsivity of APD or avalanche photodiode detector is very high compared to PIN photodetectors, but at a cost, each APD is very much expensive compared to PIN, and very complex to use. Photo detection. So there are two types of photo detection: intensity modulation or direct detection, and coherent detection. So from the block diagram, you can see that this is a direct detection or intensity modulation. As you can see from the left, the transmitted optical radiation is passing through the receiver telescope an optical filter, which then passes through the going through the photodetector directly and through the circuit. While this is the direct detection, while the coherent detection, there are the optical radiation passing through the receiver telescope and optical filter and meet a beam splitter. And also, as you can see from the block diagram, the coherent detection optical receiver has optical local oscillator. The local oscillator provides another external optical radiation that acts as a carrier for the optical radiation from the transmitter, so that the detector can discern or differentiate the noise from the signal. This is a line of sight channel gain for LED simulated using MATLAB. This is the mean delay spread for non-line of sight in nanoseconds, and this is the root mean square delay spread in nanosecond. This is the optical power distribution in diffuse channel. This is the fluorescent light interference simulation model. This is analytical power density of on-off keying non-return to zero, and this is analytical power density of on-off keying non-return to zero versus on-off keying return to zero. As you can see, the on-off keying non-return to zero is much more responsive than on-off keying return to zero, and this shows that it uses less power and very stable. As a conclusion, on-off keying modulation is very good for optical wireless communication, although there are several modulation techniques that can be used, but for simplicity of the project, this paper will choose on-off key modulation for the purpose of completion of this project. On-off keying non-return to zero has better power density, simplicity, low in cost, and low power consumption than other modulation techniques. Other modulation techniques maybe have less error in transmission, but the circuit may be very complex and expensive, or very practical for home installation, as users in home installation use devices that has battery powered devices, which means power consumption is very important. Next is LED is a device to be used for home installation in optical wireless communication system, because LED the main reason LED is chosen because apart from laser, LED have LED light does not is not harmful to human eyes, while laser has need to be calibrated and powered down to make sure the light doesn't harm the human eyes. Next is the photodetector. For the photodetector that is chosen is PIN, because it's easy to use, cost effective, and with the simplicity the circuit can work better for home installation. Photodetection technique is chosen because it provides the base for photodetector to discern or differentiate from white noise or ambient noise from the transmitted optical radiation. Thank you.